Going back to the very first time that you saw Derek Jeter at his first big league camp, what were your impressions of him?
Honestly, just he looked really little, kind of real skinny, like a skinny kid, and really kind of looked like a high school, player in big league camp. And it's pretty cool fact to see, for me to be able to watch his kind of progression, like seeing him the next camp and then the next camp, and just seeing the differences so fast. It just, you realize how fast these guys, that start off, out of the draft, 2 years later, how much different they look, and just the way they look on the field. He looked more and more like a big leaguer every time you were able to look at him and see him.
When he was a prospect, did he approach you or did you go up to him?
I don't even know. I don't remember. You see so many kids, coming to camps, and every year there's 3 or 4. I think the one unique thing about Derek was that he came to big league camp right after he signed. So that next year after rookie ball or whatever, he's in big league camp, and you obviously about your first round pick and things like that. So it was really, you feel kind of, for me now, obviously after his whole career, you feel fortunate to be able to see him, the whole process. And so it's interesting to kind of how you see those kids as they grow up.
Now, the final season of your career was his first. So how was he during that entire first season?
Good. He's pretty quiet. And he was kind of, I think, up and down that year. It was kind of back and forth a little bit. And he didn't play that much. But I just remember him just watching him take ground balls and things like that. Just the way he handled himself in the clubhouse. He was quiet. He wasn't a guy that you really noticed being loud or being all over the place. He was pretty much just a kid that was just watching and learning.
And you were the captain, so what type of advice did you give him?
I don't know if I give him any really advice. I think most of the time in that role, you're not necessarily going to guys and offering things all the time. You just kind of pay attention and you see how they handle themselves. And that was it, really, as much as anything, just paying attention from the standpoint of just watching how these guys handle themselves. You see so many guys come up, and you watch the way they handle themselves around the clubhouse, if they're nervous or if they're loud and things like that. And you kind of see a common denominator with usually the ones that end up being really good or the ones that come up very respectful of the older guys, paying attention, learning, and just watching, and you usually don't hear them too much.
So all that stuff that you just said, did his career and how successful he was come as a surprise to you?
Probably a little bit, because I didn't get to see really any, very much in the big leagues. The one thing I think I was able to see was just how quick he made adjustments. And so that's one thing usually when you see really good players, they make quick adjustments. They don't wait a year to make them. They make them pretty quick. And that's the one thing you've seen really from Derek coming to spring training as a really young player to 2 years later being a guy that's played in A-ball and then has played in Double-A. You see how much better that he got so quick. And that's one of the things you say, boy, if he just keeps getting better like that, this guy's got a chance to be really, really good. So I can't say that I thought he was going to get 3,000 hits and do all the things he was able to do so quickly. But I think you did see all the traits of a guy that was making adjustments quickly and had a chance to be a really good player.
Now, if you look at the history books, the Yankee ones, the last 2 captains, Derek Jeter and there's yourself, what goes behind being a Yankees captain or those sorts of traits? Because it hasn't happened often in Yankees history.
I don't know exactly, the process for the organization, how they choose that. And obviously they don't do it all the time. So it's not something that they just, every year you have to have one. I think you kind of grow into that. They see who you are, the consistency of who you are as a player, as a person, as a leader in that clubhouse. And it's not necessarily loud, talking, yelling, being out in the paper all the time and things like that. I think it's more of what they see when you see players that you say, this guy's the guy we want representing us.
Having been a Yankee captain, having played with Derek Jeter, you've given him advice before. What sort of advice would you give to him, considering how much Yankee fans really love their former Yankee legends like yourself? Anytime you're out in public, I'm sure there's a lot of people asking you for your autograph or saying something about your time with the Yankees. That's happening with him right now, so do you have any sort of advice on how he should maybe handle the fans or anything like that, or his post-Yankee days?
I don't think he has any trouble or need any advice from me. Derek's always, I think what he was able to do in New York speaks for itself. the way he handled himself during his whole career. It's not going to change now that he's done playing. He's gonna treat people right. He's going to do the right thing. I don't think there's any advice needed to give to him.